Hello, everyone. Welcome to School After Hours podcast, where we talk about all things related to out-of-school time programming and education. I am your host, Jay Lee. And have you ever had one of these situations where your supervisor gives you some data and you're looking at it like, what am I supposed to do with this? So, on today's show, we're going to be talking about how to use data to make positive outcomes and achieve your goals for the school year. To have this conversation with us, we have the wonderful, the awesome Rodrick Johnson with us, who is a CEO, but also he is a literacy coach at the same time. So, hopefully, we can get some reading skills that we can help with these little babies and these older babies out at the same time. So, welcome to the show, Rodrick. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty great. So, tell us your story, Rodrick. How did you get involved in education? Give us the lowdown. Give us the tea.
So, everyone, my name is Rodrick Johnson. I am the CEO and founder of the Johnson Experience LLC. I'm also a literacy coach for the Baltimore City Public School System. So, I got into education about 8 years ago. It was one of the most beautiful mistakes I've ever made. I actually was trying to get away from education, and I'll tell you a little bit why. So, I was never really initiated. I kind of like fell into it. So, my first client was actually at age 12. Her mother came to me and was talking about how she was not doing well in class. And I played school when I was little, so I guess she saw us playing school one day and thought that I'd be a fabulous teacher. So I was able to support her and actually improve her academics. And then I decided to do the same thing for my little sister. And she became such an amazing academic scholar that I just kept this show going. So I was like the neighborhood tutor at age 12. Of course, I didn't get paid for it, but it was just a way, I guess, to hone my skills to be the educator that I am today. Fast forward to high school, I actually chartered a high school. I was a legacy member of Coppin Academy High School where we actually had to like fend for ourselves, right? There was no senior level, there were no anything. We were actually the legacy class. So we were in charge of creating our experience. And so with that, we actually learned how to organize and structure things, which allows me to be able to be CEO today because I have such experience because of high school. But in high school, I noticed that my teachers were very interested. They provided experiences for all students and they made sure that we were captivated every day. So I was able to use that knowledge to realize that I wanted to be a teacher, hence going to a teacher college, Coppin State University, which is notoriously known for teaching and allowing students to be the best, nurturing their potential, and transforming their lives. So I went to college, and then after college, I consequently went into the classroom as a teacher.
Mm.
I stayed in the classroom and I stayed connected to my high school as well because
Mhm.
I was able to be an avid tutor, which again allowed me to use my best teacher practices to support high school students. So then I graduated and I got my first job, and that's when really the wheels started turning. And I was actually a teacher for the academic school year.
Mhm.
It was really intentional. My principal put me in first grade, which
Okay.
I thought was a slap in the face, but it was actually a blessing. Like, how often does your first teacher be black and male? And so now that I think about it years later, I realize how intentional she really was. She saw something in me that would make me bless those children. And some of those children are still being blessings to their community at this very day. Some of them
Mhm.
are SGA. I think they're just starting high school. I
Mhm.
know I probably did not give them 110%, but the little bit of percent that I've given them made them excel and be academic students. So if I
Mhm.
can do that for me and I can help me, and I didn't know there was a curriculum until November. So if I was even able to make an experience for them, right, in the midst of me learning, I think that that was a great job. And I think they learned a little bit more about that. So that's why I work with new teachers now, because how often do we have new teachers that go in a classroom and they don't know what they're doing? They have no
Mhm.
clue. They went to this teacher prep program that told them they were going to be successful and then let them off into the races and they're flying without wings. So
Right.
my job is to kind of step in and create a better experience for them so that I can make a better experience for children. So I use a transformational leadership approach through my own framework to ensure that they have not only success for this year, but sustainable outcomes for years to come.
Nice. So there's a in between part that I
Tell
want
me
you to
more.
connect for me.
Sure.
So, how did you go from classroom to now literacy coach and coaching teachers? So that's the little jewel.
And I'm
We want
glad
to
you
connect
asked
in the
that
story.
question because I always wanted to be a principal because I thought that's what principals do. I thought they coach teachers because I always wanted to create an experience for a student like me. I was
Hmm.
an early finisher and I also had semi identity issues. So a lot
Hmm.
of teachers couldn't reach me, and I was that quote unquote bad student because I was just naturally curious. So I needed somebody like me. I needed a champion, and now I have the job every day to create champions, not only for students like me, but for students everywhere, which is why it's named the Johnson Experience because it's really the experience of the classroom that shapes your life. I know that you probably have a teacher that you think about that really, really made you special and really, really encouraged you. And why can't all teachers be that way?
Hmm.
So, I started in my little city of Baltimore City, and now
Hmm.
I'm branching out because a lot of teachers just need a hero, just like
Hmm.
students need a hero. And I provide that opportunity for them to trust someone
Hmm.
and the opportunity for them to know that I can't teach you anything because we know the same thing, but I
Right.
can find that light inside of you that makes you a better teacher and makes better experiences for your students.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So in the process of you doing teaching, um, and then now going into being a literacy coach, let us know what that journey looked like for you. Because I know it's like, did you wake up one day and was like, you know what? I'm going to go for literacy. Like how? What happened?
So it really started when Baltimore City switched to curriculums. I was teaching third grade. I had just looped with my second graders, and part came out, and students were having to take this test, but then they switched to curriculum. It was really challenging because
Mhm.
we did not know what the curriculum was going to entail. We got it 2 days before school started, and we got training on it. My
Mhm.
training was horrible. It was one of the worst trainings I had ever received in my life. And maybe because part of it could be me, part of it could be the trainer, but I felt like I wasn't engaged in the practice. A couple months later, they actually recruited trainers for this very curriculum, and I auditioned for it and got the role. So from the classroom during the summer, I was able to be a fellow, which is Wit and Wisdom Fellow, and I was able to promote implementation across the country virtually. So I was able to help teachers improve their practice in this one little curriculum, and I felt like that kind of spearheaded my goal to coaching, which allowed me to get my job. Because when they posted the literacy coach position, I applied for it, I got interviewed, but as soon as I got to my interview, everybody on the panel knew me because I'd already facilitated wit and wisdom content. So they obviously thought I was perfect for the job. And I have been working really well with that ever since. From being a literacy coach, I started at a school 2 years ago, and it was 119 students that were 2 to 3 grade levels below for reading.
Mhm.
Now, 50 of them are reading. Yes, and ever since we got there, or I got there, really, we've changed the trajectory. But not only did we change the experiences for children, we changed the experience for teachers because it wasn't just me leading this work. It was really the teachers driving that instruction and relying on the shifts and shapes that the whole school had to adopt to make this thing work.
And it's good to have that support, and also not just the support, but seeing the change that you want to see and then making it happen and realizing that, you know what, I can't wait for anybody to be what I need them to be. I need to be it myself, and then show other people that they can also advocate for themselves, that they could also do what they need to do to get the results that they need to get. So I think that is so empowering. Community Corner is a segment of the show that allows guests or myself to share tips, advice, or information on a specific topic with young people, families, or community members. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into our Community Corner conversation. So, my question for Community Corner for you, Roderick, is how can data impact community outcomes and parent engagement?
So I want you to think about data as a source of wisdom. How do you know what's going on if you don't know what is associated with it? I take it like this. I know that we've all talked about something and it appeared on your iPhone the next day. You might think that it's magic, but it really is just data. When your iPhone hears something, they are actually going through your algorithms to see if that's something best for you. Maybe that was too much. Let's think about when you're on Amazon and you are looking for maybe something to get your Prime 1 day deal, right? You needed $5 more. And then all of a sudden, something that you looked at a few weeks ago popped up. That's also data literacy. So again, it's just the algorithm thinking about what is it that you possibly need. So if the community is able to review data, we can see what people need. It's informal data. It's not necessarily charts and graphs and bar graphs. Again, you don't need to be a data analyst to know these things. You just need to know what people need to make them more successful. That's how I see the impact of data. And it teaches you how to solve problems. It teaches you how to keep people engaged. And it teaches you how to come prepared to situations because oftentimes we come to situations like, we'll get back to you. But if you have the data, you don't need to get back to me. You can solve the problem in the first meeting as opposed to 4 meetings later.
Well, we're going to go ahead and jump into this interview. But before we get into the nitty gritty of data, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell the people a little bit about you.
Sure. So, first, let me establish who I am. My name is Rodrick Johnson. I am the CEO and founder of the Johnson Experience LLC, which is an organization that works with new teachers to improve their data literacy. Data literacy, you do not have to be a data analyst to understand data literacy. You just have to know how to apply and use complex problem solving, often called critical thinking, to address the data concerns. I do this every day in my role as a literacy coach in Baltimore City Public Schools, where I help teachers really implement best literacy practices to support student learning.
My question for you is going into data. Now, when we get these data charts and all this information, I don't know about everybody else, but I look at it and say, I don't know what you want me to do with this exactly. I don't understand. I don't understand. So hopefully in this conversation we can break some of this stuff down, but give everyone kind of tools that they could use as they're reviewing data and making plans with their data in education, but also in out of school time programming at the same time. So my first question for you is, why is data important for improving student outcomes?
Data is important because it's your roadmap. From your data, you can see where you need to go. But when you look at data, the key is to look at specific things. So, the first thing, of course, you are going to look at your test results. You do want to know what indicators and standards your students are hitting, but you also want informal data because that is going to help you with your day to day kind of operation for you to know how to reach those students. What informal data you looking for? I'm glad you asked. So the first thing you want to look at is you want to see how students solve problems. What indicators are they having? Do they run from the problem and act for a pass for the bathroom or the nurse? Or are they leaning on a partner to solve that problem? Because that is going to allow you to see how much rigor you can assign to your students and how much support you want to give them. Second thing you want to think about is what response do they have to general challenges? What are they saying when you challenge them verbally and written? Because you want to make sure that, again, you don't squeeze too much. You give them just enough pressure for them to productively struggle, but you also give them enough struggle for them to be engaged. And the rigor is actually off the teacher because you're more of a facilitator and you're more of a guide because those students are the map quest and they arrive at those answers and they should arrive just from your instruction and not without you holding their hand. And last, I think that you should really look at how students ask for support and what support they already have. In my travels, there are a lot of students that like support, but there are also a lot of students that use support as a crutch. So if you are that teacher that writes it for them, then they're most likely going to act like they're struggling every time to get you to jump in and do the work for them. And I often arm teachers, if you take away all the scaffolds, what do you have? And if you notice, every time a building is built, they eventually remove the scaffolds. So why don't we do that in the classroom? And oftentimes it's because we're giving too much support to students that need to productively struggle.
Good point. So, how do we begin to scale back on the support that we're given? Because for me, I know it's the case of I want to make sure that you get it. I want to make sure that you get it. So, I'm always going to do above and beyond to help you learn the strategy. But when do I have enough know how to kind of trust the child's ability to go ahead and step back and let them start doing it themselves?
This is going to be revolutionary. Are you ready for this answer?
Yeah.
You just ask them. Ask them
Okay.
where they are. Make them explain where they are in their thinking, and then use your instructional confidence to kind of make your judgment. Because another thing with teachers is we don't have instructional confidence. We don't have enough confidence in what we're putting in front of children. So, how do we expect them to succeed with the things that we taught them if we don't believe it ourselves? So, that's part of this work. I don't go in front of teachers and say, I'm going to teach you all this pedagogy. No, you got that in your teacher prep program. What I want to give you is your instructional confidence back. I want to give you your expertise back. And I want to take you through a transformation where you look into a mirror and you understand where you came from. And then at the end, you understand how far you came. That's the Johnson
Mm,
experience.
mm. Um, which brings me to another point of teacher confidence, because even in your first year, you're trying to figure it out. Like you do not have all the know-how. You have what you think, but then there's also application. And what you
Absolutely.
think may not always match with what you're seeing and what you're going through.
Hmm. I agree. I agree.
How do you begin to help them connect the dots of sometimes you got to put down theory and go with notion of what you feel and what you know?
So I always tell teachers, you're in control of the classroom. You are the president, the organizer, and the implementation specialist of that classroom. So whatever you say is on you. Experiment. We don't all get anything right. We're human. We're going to make mistakes. But I was talking to my leader the other day, and he told me four things that I would like to share with you of keys to success for teachers. Number one, bring your passion and your energy. You gotta have passion and you gotta have energy, or students won't listen to you. Two, you gotta have clear expectations and routines. There should be a routine for everything in your room, even down to writing with a pencil. There should be a routine for it and it should be taught. Three, student engagement. If the students are engaged, you are doing your job. If the students are not doing anything else but listening to you, you are one of the expert teachers, because that is one of the hardest things teachers can do is keep their students engaged. And again, that goes with instructional confidence. If I'm coming in here telling you that I'm going to teach you how to save the planet, I might not actually do it, but if I'm confident in it, your students will believe you and your students will actually understand the rigor that is associated with it, and they'll do what you tell them to do. And the last and the most important thing is have relationships with your students. Don't be that random person that's standing in front of them trying to teach them something that, again, you don't even believe. But these are the things you're modeling, because those students are going to be somebody's doctor one day. Their students are going to be somebody's judge. That student might be the next president of the United States, and that student might be the next Beyonce. We never know. But it's that experience that happens with you that drives their success. And students don't come back and visit teachers that didn't give them a good experience. They come back and visit those teachers that poured life into them and showed them that confidence. And it's easy to do, because if you stand in front of children with instructional confidence, you make them feel better and you do better.
That is so true. Ooh, that's dropping gems right there. Yes, yes, yes.
We love a good gym.
I know, right? I know. So, everybody, with that being said, that's a little something for you to nibble on. We're going to take a quick little break and we will be right back. Don't go too far. Did you know that 66% of fourth graders in the US are reading below proficiency, and 37% of fourth graders are reading below the basic reading level according to the National Assessment of Educational Progress? I know that's a lot to take in. At this current time, I know that there's a documentary that talks about this childhood reading crisis called The Right to Read. If you're interested in watching the film and attending a social gathering about this issue, go ahead and check out the link in my show notes and it should tell you if the documentary is going to be screened somewhere in your state or somewhere near your neighborhood. With that being said, let's go ahead and continue with the show. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show. We have the wonderful Rodrick Johnson here with us, talking to us about data, how to use it to make these impacts and these improvements for the children that we want to see do well and have a successful year. So, the last place we left off was sharing some tips and some tricks, but also owning your confidence as a teacher so then that you can be impactful in your classroom. So, with that, Rodrick, I want to go ahead and jump to this next question for you. My question is, what are the key things teachers should look for in their student data to build an academic improvement plan?
Okay, so I actually have five.
Okay.
So the first thing is really to look at the historical data. What did they do before you? What kind of challenges did they have before you? Because that's really going to drive your first few days without testing. That's really going to allow you to see kind of where they are and what they're coming to the table with. So you can kind of devise a plan. Day one, they should not be idle day one. I mean, syllabus day is cool and all, or first day jitters is cool, but you need to hit instruction day one because you only have precious time. And we do know that we lose a lot of time in the classroom. Second, what is their reward system slash values? What do they like? Like love language, right? What is your love language? What is your love language towards that student, and what is their love language towards you? Now, obviously, I'm not being weird about it, but we do know that in the workplace, there should be some reward system, and there should be some reward system in your classroom that removes the token, right? The give me something sweet for doing well. That needs to be removed. You want to instill core values in them, and you use that affirmative language to make sure they understand that success is something that is supported. This is
Mm,
not something that you just get a reward for. It's actually something that would support you to get. And then, what are their mindsets? What really makes them be a better student? What allows them to show up at the table and what engages them to do so? That is really, really important because I noticed that when I turn the room over to them,
mhm,
they love it. They enjoy it because they get to tell everybody what to do, right? And sometimes you have to realize like how much is too far, how much is too soon, but it really is important to kind of push that.
mm,
Then you want to think about what their support system at home or even outside of the school. Where are they getting that support? And if they don't have one, and that's you, congratulations. You are now a support system. And if that is not you, then you want to have that conversation with that support system to make sure that you're all speaking the same language. Because we know that, parents are sometimes bilingual, right? They can speak English and then they can speak another language when their child is being involved in something they feel like their child shouldn't be involved in, right? So that's the bilingual thing about parents. And we all have heard some of that second language, but it really is intentional that you get with that support system for them to understand that we all have a role in this child's learning and we bring that village approach back to the classroom. And the last, you want to know where they're from.
mm,
You want to know their culture so that you can cultivate a classroom culture of success. Everybody is not going to arrive to the classroom with the same determination that you had. I know I didn't, and I'm pretty sure you don't do the same. So you really want to know culturally where they come from because I hate to tell a lot of people, but hip hop don't hit everybody.
ooh,
You making a rap song to teach vocabulary don't hit everybody. Somebody like country or somebody just wants you to say the word and let me define it. So you really want to know where they're coming from and you really want to make sure that you don't step on no cultural toes when you're instructing. Notice I never said anything about test scores because if you do all of these, you're going to know their test scores before they even test.
mhm,
Because of relationship with students, you're going to know how they show up when it's time because of the relationships and the cultivating that you did to actually understand every student in your room. And I know sometimes it's hard because class sizes are growing, but that intentional work is going to allow you to kind of rest going towards the end of the year because you know what your students are going to come to the table with and you know what they're going to do.
mhm. True, true. Once you've done your diligence in building those relationships and building those rapports, and you getting your your assessments, right? You're getting that back your data. Okay, so how do you begin to look at each child and be like, okay, knowing that I have this background relationship and this background information about this child, what do I need to put in place in order for them to be successful for the year?
Yeah, you do a PDSA, plan, do, study, act. Plan something, do it, study it. Did it work? Did it not work? Do we need to redo it? Then we're going to study it and then we're going to act on it. So if it didn't work, you're going to fix it. If it worked, keep doing it. It's really simple. PDSA, it's a process that really, really helps you understand what students need. And it also helps you to monitor what needs to happen in your room and what patterns you can see with the data, because that's all data is. It's a source of
Mm,
patterns. And you
mm-hmm,
see you're going to have about 4 or 5 students that fall in one pattern. You got 4 or 5 students that fall in another pattern. And you may have one that fall into an arbitrary pattern that you never even seen, but all of this informs your practice.
good stuff. Good stuff. Now, I do have a backup question for you, being that you brought up uh, once you make your plan, put your plan in action, and then once that plan is put in action, see what is going well, see what's not going well. Come up with a different strategy if you need to, and if it is working, go ahead and finish working your strategy. How long is that process? What is that? A 5 week or a 13-week process? To
Hmm.
know to see what sticks and what doesn't. Because for some people, they'll be like, they'll try it. I see this all the time. They'll try it for like 2 to 3 weeks and be like, "No, this ain't working." Switch. You ain't giving enough time to work yet.
So I think average 3 weeks, 15 days. It takes
Mm-hmm.
21 days to build a habit, but kids don't have that long. A normal quarter is 45 days. So 15 days, kind of a spot check throughout the quarter. I think that is more than enough time for you to see and then monitor that progress. And if you need to switch it, switch it. If not, don't do it. Or if you need to ask a student to help you with a specific student, that's also something that you can add, because again, they're not just humans that you are pouring life into, but they actually come with a skill set. And some of them are better at being therapists than you are.
Mm-hmm.
So just let that sink in, because your classroom, again, you are the person that is cultivating that family in that classroom. So you should be able to call on your family and say, hey, I need help today. I don't know how to solve this problem. And they should be able to rise to the occasion because of you.
Right. Awesome. And my other question, hold on, wait. Um, when do you begin to say to yourself, okay, I've tried A, B, C, D, E, and now we at F? When do you start to know that, okay, there's probably another resource that I need to pull in to kind of help with this process?
So it depends on what you believe, right? I can't tell you when to make that decision, but I can tell you that that belief in those values equals your attitude. It makes you come to the table a little different. And then when you have that instructional confidence and realize that my students are not making my checks for understanding, my formal assessments are not doing well, I'm asking them about problem solving and they're not giving it to me. That is when you probably need to think about what you're doing and how you're showing up, and maybe ask for an observation, because teachers love observations. They're like the best thing since sliced bread. Obviously, observations don't mean a lot to me, because observations don't include or don't improve teacher practices, conversations about instructional strategies, and teaching teachers how to teach, improve strategies. So maybe ask for a friend or a coach to step in and see what's happening during that facilitation. See if you have an unbiased opinion about what's happening in my classroom that you can support me with, and let's collaborate to solve the problem.
Mhm. Once all these things have been put into practice, what should teachers do to monitor the child's success?
Check for understanding. Always ask to see if the child even knows what you're talking about. How often do we do that, right? We tell a child, I said it because I'm an adult, but just checks for understanding. Formal assessments obviously are key, just to see what kind of work they're doing towards the standards. Socratic seminars are new for me. And that is when a collective group ask questions amongst a group and problem solve within a group, and you as the teacher actually step out of the equation and really listen to what they're saying and create some sort of group problem solving mechanism, which allows them, wait a minute, later on in life, to solve problems with whoever they then to work with. And then you want to also consult problems with parents and their support system, like I said earlier, just to make sure that we're still speaking that same language, because that homework behavior And those habits of academic presence outside of the classroom really inform the presence inside of the classroom so that you can kind of shift and adjust if you need to.
Oh, that was a good one. That was a good one, Roderick. So, with that being said, everybody, that brings us to the end of our show. I know, shedding tears, shedding tears. But it's not completely over yet. We're going to go ahead and slide into our Professionals Lounge. Professionals Lounge is a segment of the show that allows guests to share advice with other practitioners in the OST and youth development field about how they can begin growing their gifts and talents, but also develop themselves as professionals in the field. Here's our Professionals Lounge conversation. So, Roderick, my question for you is, how can teachers use student data to set themselves and their students up for success?
Just use it. That's really that's really what I have, but understand what data literacy really means. And in January, I'm actually coming out with a class about data literacy. So make sure you look out for it. You are the first to know. I never debuted that. So that is an exclusive for you. That in January, we are releasing a class so that you understand how data literacy works. And again, you do not have to be a data analyst to use data literacy. So also just look it up. Really understand like what data literacy is because you make a lot of moves with data literacy. So that is one of the things. And also, I have a few tips for new teachers. So I want to make sure that I share them with you. And these are research tips that I kind of put together myself, but I also researched them to make sure that they were actually relevant for this time. So the first one is be prepared. Be prepared and be prepared, but really over plan. That is my thing. If you have a 30-minute session, you should plan a 60-minute session. If you have a 60-minute session, you should have a 90-minute session because you never know how fast you can go and how slow you go. Then ask questions. Find a mentor. I'm going to say that again. Find a mentor slash coach. You need it. You are new to this. Find somebody that will help you. Focus on student relationships. They matter. Connection over content. For those people that understand, we understand. For those that don't understand, you're still working on it, and it's going to work out for you. Keep your students engaged. Find a format that works. If one don't work, try another one. If that don't work, try another one. If that don't work, try another one. Keep them engaged because then you don't have to deal with student behavior. And again, all of this is towards data. Be flexible. Bend when you need to bend. Curve when you need to curve. Your students need a champion. Every child deserves a champion, and you are it because you are a teacher. It comes with the badge of honor. Keep learning and growing. Don't stop at your bachelor's level. Get a master's. Get a master's in art and teaching. Get a master's in curriculum development. Get a district masters. I don't know, but figure out how you can keep learning and growing. Read a book. Do all of these things because these are the things that's going to set you apart. These are the things that's going to make those impacts for children, and most importantly, create experiences that last a lifetime. And last but not least, and one of the most important things that I'll ever say to you, and I don't want you to lose your mind when I say this, but really give yourself grace.
Mm.
You're not going to be perfect. And if you are perfect, you still got learning to do. Give yourself grace. It's not about doing it right, it's about doing it with intention
Mm.
because no one can tell who's right or wrong. A rubric can't tell you anything, but you can tell yourself everything. I know that
Okay.
was gonna get you. I'm sorry. I just had to
I
say
can't
it
do it.
because
I can't do
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. That's all I can say about that one.
it.
But yeah, look out for the data course though. It's coming. It's coming, and it's gonna be cheap too. Just save
Awesome.
your $500 because I'm telling you, it's worth 1,500, but I'm gonna sell it for 500.
Look,
So
every
get
nickel,
ready.
corner, quarter, penny, dime, you got time to go ahead and put your money away.
You
Please go
got your
ahead and
time to put money
support.
away because once it hits
Look,
the market, it's over.
it's,
It's over because our teachers are going to be prepared to do some extraordinary things. I'm telling you what I know.
especially when it comes to your professional development dollars. Go ahead, spend that money. Go ahead, spend that
That's
money.
right.
Please do.
Spend the money.
Mhm.
I'm telling you. I'm telling you, if you need to get in touch with me about it, you definitely can contact me, but you're going to want it. That's all I'm saying.
I know that's right. Well, Roderick, thank you for being on the show.
No problem. This is fun.
I'm happy that you enjoyed. So, if people wanted to get in touch with you, to have more of these conversations or even see your services, how they reach out?
www.thejohnsonexperience.com. I'm on Instagram at Coach R. Johnson. I'm on Twitter, Coach Johnson, also the Johnson Experience. I'm on Facebook as Rodrick Johnson. I also have a Johnson Experience page on Facebook. And then you can email me at rjohnson@thejohnsonexperience.com. I am responsive. I have one member on my team, so we get to you as fast as we can, but we never let a day go by where if a teacher inboxes us or contacts us, we reach them the same day because we understand the sense of urgency that is associated with Americans' education. And also, as a doctoral student, I need that data for me. So that is really interesting. So feel free to always contact me, DM me, and find me if you really need tools to success and data literacy, and if you want to improve your instructional confidence.
Well, everyone, that brings us to the end of our show. If you liked what you heard and you enjoyed our conversation, make sure that you're following us on YouTube, but also hit that like button so we know what you are enjoying. You can also find us on other podcast platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts if you want to listen to our audio version as well. To get more behind the scenes stuff, make sure that you're following us on our social media accounts, Instagram and Facebook at School After Hours. Well, that's all I have for today. In the words of Mr. Arthur Ashe, start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. Until next time, y'all. Bye-bye.